So we're here at the East Terminal Railway today on a really special day. This is the we're going to push the button and see if it'll start day. Now what we didn't talk too much about was the significance of that. This locomotive was built and completed in September of 1956. This is September of 2021, which makes this month its 65th birthday. I wish I knew the exact day. Some of you guys that are into research, maybe you could find when the original owner, which was Ohio Edison, somebody put it in the notes, I believe Ohio Edison, when they took delivery, when they test ran it, there's one day this month, and I really wish I knew what day it was, where this baby was born. But because this is its 61st birthday and we're going to start it, we're going to celebrate. Now we're celebrating a little bit early. We haven't pushed the button yet, but enjoy some cake with us. We're glad you're along. Each and every one of you, the comments you make and the interest you've had. So happy birthday, number 2021. May today be the day you restart your career. Today with us, we have Mark Wise. Mark's got some railroading experience. He was telling me the other day that he's driven a locomotive about 20 miles. I got to ask you, freight or passenger?
I'm a freight guy.
Freight, yeah. Have you ridden passenger?
Yeah, a little bit, but not a whole lot. My wife and I took a transcontinental across Canada for our 25th anniversary, and that was a beautiful trip. Beautiful trip. But I'm more of a freight person.
Yeah.
To move things around.
Yeah. I've never taken that trip, and I would like to. Steam or diesel?
Diesel. It's just, the transition was when I was born, and all I remember are the diesel.
Yeah, same. And favorite railroad?
Norfolk Western.
Norfolk Western.
Nickel plate, really, before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're from Northwest Ohio.
Northwest Ohio.
Where nickel plate was big.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have a piece of celebratory birthday cake for our dear friend, our new friend. Then we're going to push the button. That'll be live. Stand by. Well, I'm here today to do the startup, and it's going to be a special day, and I'm pretty confident that it'll start right up. There are some things I want to go over on the locomotive before we push the start button, and I do want to thank you all for your advice and your input. Some of you wanted me to put rubber beside the cables in the battery box. I've done that. So we got a couple more things we're going to do. We're going to look at the fuel filters. We're going to spin the filter off and see what's inside of it. I'm going to take the filter and pour the contents into this clear container so that I can see what's in it. I know some of you will want me to put new filters on, but I'm not going to do that right now because I want to see what's in the filter. I'm going to change it and put in fresh fluid, so that it's ready to start. But if we're going to plug a filter with algae out of the tank, then I would rather it be the old filter, and I will know if it starts and runs on that old filter and the old fuel, that where we're at. It's a basis point, it's a benchmark. Now, one of you asked about Algae Fighter. That's what this is. This product right here, you put in diesel fuel and it cleans the tank and prevents what they call fuel slime, but it's actually algae. It's an animal, a plant life, a microbe, a little critter that cruds up the fuel tank. Or is it vegetation? You guys will know. Anyway, algae will plug filters and do a lot of damage. This sat for a while, but I don't know if it sat long enough and how the fuel was treated. So let's look up in there and see how the fuel is in this one right here. This is what is called number 2 engine. It's behind the operator. So I've got a pan, I've got a chain wrench. Let's see what's in there. Okay, here's a look at the fuel. That filter is about 2/3 of the way full. Many of you know why this fuel is red. Some, this will be a little education for you. It's off-road fuel. This is the fuel that you can use in bulldozers, farm tractors, locomotives. The reason it's red, if you get pulled over on the freeway and they dip your tank and find that the fuel is at all red, they know you've been using fuel without paying the taxes. This fuel has no tax on it. Road use diesel has tax on it, and it's clear diesel. Okay, as I look at this, couple little particulates down in the bottom, but overall I don't see water. So I'm going to replace this with good, clean, fresh fuel that I know the engine will start on, and put this same filter back on. My thinking is if this filter is partially clogged, then it's going to filter even better. It'll catch the algae even better. If we're going to plug a filter, I want to plug this one, and I might as well know it now. If this will start and run on the clean diesel and then stops in a little bit, I've got an algae problem. So that's the way we're going to roll. I'll go get the fresh diesel. We'll fill her up, spin it back on. Okay, along with oil in both the engine and the air compressor, we also want to make sure we have coolant. So what I'm going to do is take the lid off. Now there, that's common. This is a sleeve, copper or brass, that should be soldered into the top of the radiator. Now what I'm looking for is, right now I'm looking for supply. Later in the winter we'll be looking for temperature protection, but right now that is sufficient. It's right near the top of the radiator. I do have one that reads what the protection level is. We'll get that and have you guys log it so we know what it is. Well, you know, I'm learning all the time just like you guys are, and I know what this is. This is 32 volts that pulls in a little valve. It's more like a baffle plate. It's a piece of steel that when the magnet hits it, it flexes. That allows fuel by it. When you cut the voltage, the magnet drops off, the plate flexes back, shuts the fuel off. You can also do it with this screw right here. So I got my Radio Shack multimeter out here, checking it. Nothing, no voltage. Well, it dawned on me why, and I saw this the other day. Right down here is a oil pressure continuity switch. So right now, with no pressure on this, the switch is closed and it will not allow current to go through there, and that's shutting off the fuel to here. So the other day when I said you had to have enough battery to roll over the engine to get oil pressure, bring up fuel, scare the mice out, that's what I meant by oil pressure. You got enough oil pressure to open switches and get it ready to run. So we're going to crank this over and see if that this will light off. Okay, we're going to try this. I'm happy with the fuel scenario and coolant. Check the oil in the engine and the air compressor. Got the shutdowns ready. I've got 2 fire extinguishers. I've got a safety observer, Mark's roll. And we're going to go ahead and push the start button. We know it's not going to move. I think we're set. Let's see what happens. Happy birthday, 2021. Okay, we're going to give it a whip of ether. Mark, that'll be your job. Okay. We've got Mark on the other side. He's manning the ether. We talked about how to spray ether so that you are not getting a full big lung full of it in one cylinder. So here we go. He's going to spritz it in while we're rolling. As soon as it starts rolling, give it a couple of whiffs. That's good. That's good. Okay, we have oil pressure. It started without that. It was that close. Okay, we have oil pressure. Look over that side of the engine. Okay, I shut it off when I heard the RPM going up.
That did it on its own?
Yeah. Okay, so we've got oil pressure. I was happy about that. That's one of the first things you check. I think it started on its own without the ether that Mark was about to apply. The little bit of ether it got, that was that knock you heard. So if I just stayed in it another 2 seconds in that first push, wouldn't that be something on your 61st birthday to come up out like that? We just heard the RPM increasing, so I shut it down real quick. We're going to try that again. That'll be this restart. I was also glad to know this shutoff worked. Really, I should have done that in the first 5 seconds. Other than I wanted to see oil pressure and see it run for a minute. Still there! Man, this thing purrs like a kitten. I'm not seeing any smoke at all. We got 60 psi of oil pressure. We're building air. Say it again. Doing good. Well, subscribers, this is a great day for the East Terminal Railway. Okay, so it's Mark's turn at the controls now. Now, the end that you're going to be starting, we were real happy with that end. So what we're going to do is we're going to start what's labeled the south end. So this is the oil pressure gauge you're looking at.
Okay.
This is temperature. That'll be on the climb.
Okay.
This is the shutdown for the south engine right there.
Okay.
So if something goes wrong, you're going to shut that off.
Gotcha.
If there were an electrical problem, you'd shut off this big red mushroom switch right up here.
Okay, gotcha. Slam it down.
Yep, I am going to go man the...
So this up, that button push starts the engine.
Gotcha. Yep. And this throttle is locked in idle, which is probably where we should leave it for now. And I will communicate through that window right there. Okay, go ahead and roll her over.
Okay, south engine on, south punch.
Okay, wait, right there.
Did I not wait long enough?
Well, we didn't do that as a teaching moment, but it is a teaching moment because that switch on the side of the block started sensing oil pressure, but it wasn't enough to keep it open. So This time, stay into it longer until you have more oil pressure.
Okay.
It won't hurt the generator. There is no starter. It uses the main generator as the starter. And later we'll talk about start windings and exactly how that works. But it will not hurt at all for you to stay into the start button until you've got oil pressure. Then when you let off of the start button, the pump will stay, the pump valve will stay open and it will stay running. Okay, fire at will.
Pressure's coming up.
Now go ahead and crack the throttle. And there's a button right on the end. Yep, there you go. Man, that's good oil pressure. We're building air pressure too. Okay, go ahead and shut it in the roll. Nice. And you know, we should have tested that end for the shutoff valve. Go ahead and shut it off.
This guy?
Yep. As if something had gone wrong. Now, something else I noted on that gauge, I was going to brag on the voltage that the alternators were putting out, but this lens is loose. That really goofs that needle up. Okay, go ahead and fire it back up. And we're going to call this successful birthday. Nice.
So why 2 engine?
A locomotive that weighs 50 tons should have 300, 400 horsepower. And instead of getting it out of 1 engine, they got it out of 2 engines. So it's the appropriate amount of horsepower for the weight of the locomotive. And we right now, when we had ERA, could move cars, plural, 4 or 5 cars on one end or the other. So if you blew an engine up, you could still fulfill your commitment to go move cars.
Can you run both of them at the same time then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now that engine runs that truck, that engine runs that truck.
I thought they were chained.
The axles are chained together, but because they swivel independently, they have no driving connection.
Oh, okay.
And that's another good point that we'll develop later. Why diesel electric is so functional and so ideal for this scenario. If it weren't for the cables running down there, which are about this big around, 4 of them run down to the traction motor. Can you imagine a drive shaft that came off an engine, off the back of an engine, went down through the center of the truck, then turned another 90 degrees, then turned another 90 degrees to the axle? You'd have big bevel gears. It would be a nightmare. Instead, you run these 4 cables down there, hook them to the motor, and you've got drive. When it comes time to change the traction motor out, unbolt the 4 cables, that's it. Which is also why we don't call the engine, the diesel engine, a motor. It's not a Cummins motor. In railroad terminology, if somebody says we need to check out the motor or we need to replace the motor, it's got a bad motor, we just had that motor rebuilt, that means literally a traction motor.
Yeah.
There's also a motor in the heater, but the Cummins, they are engines.
Okay.
Well, we've got oil pressure, we're building air at a nice rate. For one end, that's pretty good. That's those new air compressors. See, this is a used locomotive, but it's rewired, it's got new compressors. Unfortunately, it was just a little homely looking, but I see right through that. The walls in here, this is going to be gray and beautiful. Oh, we took the horn off. I was going to say, a subscriber gets to be the first. Go ahead, let's see what, it's piped, but you know what? I've got the horn in the $400 Xterra. It won't take me long to put it back on. Stand by, we're going to be back with the horn. Okay, what we have here is that horn that we talked about, and a subscriber gets to be the first one to blow the horn. Go ahead and hit it, Mark. Happy birthday. Oh, this is such a great day. Yeah, who knows? Nice. So Mark, this red needle right here is the brake pressure on the cylinder. It says red equal brake cylinder. That's the cylinders on the truck that are applying the brakes. So right now the brakes are on, the bleed off. So now the brakes are completely off. We are going to throw the reverser while it's in idle. Then I'm going to crack.
Is that going that way for sure?
Yeah. Then I'm going to crack the throttle. We should see a load come up.
Nope, going that way. That's what I thought. It's the other way around. Because it's turned around on a track.
Yeah, I know, but you should always throw the lever to the direction you're going. That is truly weird. I've never seen one.
There we go.
Now we are in gravel. I do want to say also, we had a safety briefing. We put extra rubber sheeting around those battery cables that some of you were worried about. We safety briefed on not walking on the railhead. We've got 2 fire extinguishers. We've remained hydrated on water, and we checked all around the locomotive before we started to move it.
You good with that gauge?
Yeah, I'm just going to the end of the gravel.
Turn around when you're doing the end of the line.
Nice. I think it sounds weird because it's not bolted down. Now, this is interesting. We are only driving on that truck. And here's how I know. This meter isn't going up, and that's because that shunts off that generator lead. Correction, generator field contactor. See it? Yeah. So if we shut down the south engine, it's going to perform exactly alike, just like it was. So I'm going to have to investigate why that contactor has got the shunt off of it. Well, people, this was pretty successful. We got cake, we blew the birthday horn, we got a subscriber here, it runs. We are not, this one end there's a question, but what would life be if it didn't have questions? Give us something to work on. So thank you all for your input, comments. We're going to go on to some improvements, some repairs. We'll keep you informed. Thank you. Okay, so Graham's going to be the second one to start and operate. I should say third. Mark, the subscriber, myself. Graham will be number 3. So open the cabinet, throw in the knife switch. You'll notice that they took one side of the knife switch out. See the knife switch? Throw it in. Okay, now up on top of the dash, there's a red mushroom button. Pull up on that. Okay, now on the dash, it's got to say control. Needs to be flipped up. Okay. Now you're going to stay in the start button for the north end. Now flip the north end up, yes. Okay, now stay in the button until you have oil pressure, or it'll shut itself down.
Mm-hmm. Which one's this one?
Yes. What do you think? Oil pressure on both? Nice. Well, this is a great birthday weekend for the 2021. Cake, White Castle coffee, puff of white smoke, and 2 smooth running Cummins. Happy birthday, 2021. Well, Graham is back from the job he's been working on, and he for sure wanted to get into the birthday party. It's another important birthday party. It's the 100th year of White Castle. They started 1921, locomotive built 1956. 2021's its name, and Graham had a special way that he wanted to celebrate White Castle and the 2021's birthday. Happy birthday, 2021.